Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. We are keenly awaiting Alpha 3.5.0 to drop to first Wave PTU and then to live at the end of the month. But today I wanted to talk about managing expectations for the patch, what the patch is, what it's not, and the problems it needs to overcome. Alpha 3.5 has a lot of planned features that look like they should all make it into the live release now, but there are still concerns over some of the new aspects of the game, and the new content is still going to have some holes that need to be filled in some way. Partly because that is the nature of Star Citizen updates, and the game is sort of like an alpha that's also live, and they do these updates every 3 months or whatever. But I'm also talking about parts of the flight model, combat, missions that will need to be dealt with. And as I said, Star Citizen's Persistent Universe releases a major patch every 3 months indefinitely, and minor patches and server hotfixes in between as necessary. The new flight model is a massive change. It has velocity control, which sets your maximum speed on your mouse wheel, on the mouse and keyboard, but also replaces precision mode, SCM mode, and cruise modes and speeds. Basically, it's all one thing now. There is sort of still SCM speeds. If you go too fast, the faster you go, basically, the less control and agility you have. You need to hold W to move forward, or S to move back, and releasing the key will have you go back to 0 unless you activate cruise control, which will have your ship try to maintain the speed that you've set with the velocity control. Afterburner gives you an acceleration boost. Decoupled mode can now be toggled or hold to use. It's pretty simple. It's a bit dumbed down in my opinion, but I like the idea of it. The new flight model has promise in my opinion. The major issue for me is how combat ready it is for 3.5 and how long it's going to take to get it from a promising model to a great one. Combat parts of the model will take time to balance, and we'll need players to balance that, so they can't really do that much, even in the EVOCATI and PTU phases. Well, they can to a certain extent, but it's sort of like up in the air whether they're going to get a lot of it locked down. And it looks like the plan between 3.5 and 3.6 is to get combat and the flight model in a better place, with ESP and all that sort of jazz. Meaning that 3.5 might be more exploratory mechanic-wise rather than fun and meaningful gameplay-wise. Admittedly, a good amount might get done in 3.5's PTU phases. We just don't know how far along flight model and combat will get. But it's worth expecting a 3 to 6 month gearing period, in my opinion, to get that nailed down. Obviously, it's a core feature for Squadron 42 Episode 1, and they do need to get it done for that, and they want to release Squadron 42 Episode 1 in 2020, or at least have that beta ready for then. There might be delays, we'll have to wait and see. Flight model could cause a large portion of them if done wrong. AI and FPS stuff. So, again, AI has a long way to go, and although 3.5 does have additions to AI, they are going to need to get it working fully for the new flight model, balance it for combat, and there's a huge amount of work to do with that, not just getting the AI hooked up and working, but also getting all of their stuff working for missions, and making sure they've got the right loadouts, and making sure the weapons and fun and all of that sort of stuff is working as intended. And that's just not going to be plausible to get that all right for 3.5. In 3.5, we do see FPS collision avoidance, the ability for NPCs to acknowledge objects and navigate around them efficiently and realistically, which is obviously well needed for the FPS side. Basic gunship behavior improvements to enable gunship crews to make better use of turrets and gimbaled weapons. We know that gunships are going to be trying to sort of like circle targets and bring their weapons and turrets to bear upon targets. So ships will want to sort of like stay in their blind spots when chasing them, and gunships are anything that basically makes use of turrets as their main weapon. So even a Constellation. The AI hooked up to the new flight model and ship AI combat behavior improvements are obviously all going into 3.5, but we just don't know to what state and level that's going to be for the live build. They're also implementing a combat assistance service beacon where players can assist an AI in distress, as well as AI bounty hunters now being able to attack players with bounties on them, and AI security forces attacking players with high crime stats. That's sort of like all happening in the game, which will add to some quite interesting gameplay happening, and players obviously turning up to help the sort of like bounty hunters and things like that when things go down. Throughout 2019, we're also getting So this is not in 3.5. 3D pathfinding, adding the ability for spaceships to efficiently navigate space using physics grids. FPS, NPC improvements and additional behaviors for NPCs like civilians, bartenders, shopkeepers, and more. FPS cover usage, the ability for AI to strategically use cover and react to environmental modifications and them sort of like dynamically run around based on the situation and what's happening to their teammates. FPS weapon types, the ability for combat AI to engage the player using a wider arsenal of weaponry. Advanced gunship defensive maneuvers, so this is the implementation and balancing of defensive maneuvers for reacting to heavy incoming fire, which makes it sound like the gunships and larger ships will be more sensible about engaging and disengaging. FPS combat behaviors version 2. This is improvements to the FPS combat to enable NPCs to fight in a more believable way. And ACE pilot flight behaviors. Beyond that, Squadron 42 Episode 1 being complete should herald a good place for AI and NPCs. Obviously, that's planned for more 2020 time. However, that then needs to be translated to the persistent universe. There's a lot to be done, is what I'm saying. With the FPS AI, we know we've had problems with spawning and pathfinding and general combat with FPS NPCs. They are not challenging at all in 3.4.3. A good amount of issues will be resolved from 3.4 in 3.5, but the additional gameplay area and massive changes with the flight model are going to cause new problems. That I have no doubt. 3.5 does have a lot of content in it, but a large amount of this is quality of life and optimization based. These are certainly needed, though, and will fix things like network object container stall fixes, dealing with hitching and loading in and out of assets, so you won't have hitching when you're quantum traveling from Port Olisar to a planet or whatever. When you come in and out of quantum travel, you shouldn't have that horrible sort of like pause that we previously had. The projectile manager is going to be there, streamlining projectiles to allow for more pew-pew at less resource cost. Improvements to hard surface shaders, allowing greater detail on man-made objects, disconnection and crashing refactoring and fixes, so hopefully we shouldn't crash so much, that sort of stuff. Gimbaled weapon improvements. So this is a few things, actually. We know that they've got improvements to the ship combat system through automated gimbal mounts that are going to see pip convergence and the option of manual and auto gimbals that are going to help you aim at targets. If you have auto gimbals on, you can concentrate more on flying, and your sort of like gimbals will try and aim at a target, that sort of stuff. So both of those are coming in 3.5, at least that's the plan. Distortion damage improvements for both weapons and environmental sources. So we're going to see those sucker punch weapons have a bit more use in EMPs and stuff like that. Vehicle tech updates such as vehicle states for behaviors and updating the vehicle paint system are all being done. Ship component degradation, item performance and persistent wear, improving the current heat system to support systemic gameplay and customization, updating the scanning system, adding the ability to create and detect false signatures, improving the quantum travel with sort of like updates to the UI, interaction and spline jumps, radar updates to support environmental impacts and effectiveness from them, VoIP and VoIP improvements for better performance and accuracy, which obviously would be great, and it just working every time would be cool as well. Group system improvements, including a smoother mobiGlas and invite experience, which I'm doubting we're going to see any form of sort of like mission sharing. I think that's very much more a 3.6 feature that they're going to be going for, but there might be some other little group system improvements there. The big inclusions are going to obviously be the new flight model, but also ArcCorp, its moons, Area 18, the spaceport there. There is a lot of mission expansion with the new mission giver, Twitch, but also expanding the usable mission area to ArcCorp and its moons and stations, and using that for all the other missions in the game. I would expect some new missions too, or at least new missions in the way that sort of like parts of them are used from 3.4 in new ways for 3.5, that sort of stuff. Female characters and the new player DNA customization system, the 300 series rework and Reliant variants being flyable. Also, all things that we know are quite big for, or at least will sort of change a lot of the stuff in 3.5. And we also know that there's some form of customization stuff that they're going to be doing for the 300 series that's planned to be put on the website with that rework. We'll have to see exactly what that's going to be, though, at the end of March. I would expect to see cargo hauling, shopping, and some of the general what is worth grinding Alpha UEC in economy and mission wise to change it up as well. We might see a change in Jump Town being the sort of like place to haul from. Maybe there'll be some other places with some rarer commodities and stuff like that as well. That's the sort of thing they might look at. Or it might be that some missions get a lot more value, or cargo of particular cargo routes will be more dynamic and change. Bugs. The PTU will have a lot of bugs. It just will. When 3.5 goes live, there will still be some issues. Hopefully, they will sort of like have the more annoying bugs, like the Mobigas double take and falling through planets and moons, getting killed randomly by ladders and objects. All of that hopefully fixed. That would be absolutely great. We have previously seen major exploits with patches as well, sort of like being able to mount massive amounts of guns of any size, just tons and tons of weapons on ships, the madness. Also, ships, after they got repaired, sometimes would have zero mass. Hopefully, that sort of problem, not an issue in 3.5. And again, hotfixes and minor patches will come out to address any major issues once a patch goes live. And that's one of the other things. When a patch goes from EVOCATI to PTU to live, even if everything looks good in that PTU phase with that build, there are some problems which are just sort of like happen in the live build. Either they were undetected or there's some sort of other problem that is magically appeared. I'm not sure why that's affecting the live build, but doesn't affect the PTU build. It could be hardware issues. It could be a lot of different things. So in conclusion to my sort of like rant on 3.5, the patch changes a big chunk of core gameplay with its flight model and ship combat. This is a huge change. There are entirely new features with the DNA system, female characters, and ArcCorp gameplay area, its new mission giver, new moons, Area 18, an entire city planet. There's some amazing things they have done, and new stuff they're trying with sort of like the lower no-fly zone, buildings that you can land on in ArcCorp, loads of new assets, a city planet. That's amazing. Most of those features of the patch are improvements, though, updates and optimizations, which, don't get me wrong, are needed and will go a long way into making the game more accessible and playable, especially to new and casual players. But because of those core changes and the lack of any new true gameplay loops, the 3.5 patch could leave some hoping for more meaningful gameplay a bit disappointed. However, if the flight model has enough promise and you want to get involved with its testing and development, then I expect 3.5 really will have quite a lot of meaningful feedback that will help affect the game in a big way for the future. And that new sort of area, ArcCorp and that sort of stuff is nothing to be sniffed at. That is a huge step forward for their biomes and their assets and their tech, making all those other sort of like civilized areas, cities and important planets going forward. The enjoyment of this patch for me will also largely depend on how the AI has taken to the new flight model. Are they basically AFK? Are they fighting back and interesting? That sort of stuff. Are they working for the missions, or are they entirely broken? The FPS AI as well. Are they all spawning in each other and not attacking me, or are they dangerous and fun? These are things they've needed to address for a while, and hopefully 3.5 will see at least some of this sorted. The flight model is possibly the most important thing to get right for the game, especially at the moment. So let's hope that 3.5 marks a good point and first iteration of that new model, which we can then help fix and get ready and prepared and working for the future. I'll certainly be piling on my feedback and talking about it a lot when Alpha 3.5 goes to PTU and live. But tell me what you think in the comments below. I know this video was a lot more ranty than my normal videos, but I wanted to have a bit of a rant before that 3.5 patch went to sort of like first wave PTU, because then obviously all my content is going to be much more sort of like focused on what is happening with the PTU journals, patch notes, all that sort of stuff, and it'll be quite fast paced. But yes, 3.5, very exciting, very cool. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. This month, by popular demand again, it's for an Anvil Carrack, this time sponsored by Forgotten Heralds, a lawful private military company with a history grounded in UEE military service. They are recruiting at the moment and are a good choice for both veteran and new players alike. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that Carrack, though, is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen videos made during this month. Links to more info on Forgotten Heralds and full details of the giveaway down below. If you don't have a gaming PC yet, or you are upgrading, instead consider Shadow Cloud Gaming. They allow you to leverage the powers of the internet to stream a high-spec Windows 10 environment to any other PC, Mac, or device like a smartphone or tablet. It is working really well in Star Citizen's 3.4 branch, and be sure to use the code BoredGamer if you do decide to check it out to get a discount. Links below. This channel exists because of its community. If you wish to support the channel further, below there are links to Patreon, Subscribestar, and there's the YouTube channel memberships, literally the join button below this video. VIPs do get some exclusive stuff and early content as a thank you as well. If you have any feedback, suggestions, or just want to say hi, please drop a comment below or poke me on discord.gg/BoredGamer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.